name's Dean Rundle. I'm from Region 6, and welcome to the workshop on Refuge Geospatial. I didn't know I was going to have to do this till yesterday. They assigned me to the Living Artifact Committee or the Heritage Committee, and then I found out that meant I volunteered to be a monitor. So welcome everybody. We're going to start off to reward those of you who showed up on time by playing Refuge Trivia. I have 3 questions. If the first person to raise their hand and answer the question correctly gets a little card, and you can turn this in for a door prize over at the registration desk. These were generously donated by friends groups from around the country. And the first question. Pelican Island National Wildlife Refuge in Florida was the first national wildlife refuge. Name the second national wildlife refuge. And not Lower Klamath. Breton National Wildlife Refuge, now part of the Southeast Louisiana Complex, sir. Number 2, this is too easy. Which state has the most national wildlife refuges? Correct, North Dakota. And number 3, who wrote, if you travel much in the wilder sections of our country, sooner or later you are likely to meet the sign of flying goose, the emblem of the National Wildlife Refuges. It wasn't? Okay. I'll give you a hint. There's a lodge at NCTC name. Rachel Carson.
Thank you.
The organizers of this obviously didn't select monitors well. I was given Refuge Geospatial. I work for Rick Coleman. You heard his talk this morning. Said to think, I don't even have a BlackBerry or a laptop, but I'm moderating the Geospatial. And then at 3 o'clock after this, there's one about green tools, and I thought pick me for that because it's a John Deere implement display, but that's not correct either. I want to introduce our speakers this afternoon. First, in the middle here is Todd Sutherland. Todd's the National Inventory Monitoring Data Manager at the Fort Collins office. He's originally from Minnesota and has his degree in geography from the University of Wisconsin at La Crosse. He's been working with refuges for 16 years, focused primarily on assisting field stations with the application of geospatial technologies. On the far end is Chuck Lesh. Chuck's a wildlife biologist with the Habitat and Population Evaluation Team. We know as HAPIT in Bismarck, North Dakota. He's been up there about 16 years, I think, and has done a lot. If you've seen some of the thunderstorm maps, what Region 6 talk about is real SHC for landscape protection. Chuck's been working on that in many other issues. Finally, David Drescher is the Regional Information Branch Supervisor for the Pacific Region and Portland in the Refuge Program. His branch is responsible for GIS analysis and mapping, asset management, and heavy equipment purchasing and training. Dave's been in the GIS industry for about 25 years, including 12 of those with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And without further, I'll turn it over to Todd to start the presentation.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that. I'm actually sitting in on this first session for Ron Salz, who's feeling a bit under the weather right now. He's in D.C. and he couldn't make it. He wishes he could attend. I talked to him today, and I told him if I moved from Hawaii to D.C., I'd be feeling a bit under the weather too. So he recently joined the service moved in from Hawaii in January. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit. And he's our Refuges National GIS Coordinator. So what I'm going to work today is I'm basically going to give you an overview of the national perspective and strategies for supporting geospatial technology to help support the Fish and Wildlife Service mission. And I'll then turn it over to my colleagues who will kind of look at more of the local and the regional side of things. And then we're going to open it up for lots of questions, discussions, input. So probably be up here for 30 minutes, and then we'll have the rest of the time for that discussion. When we do have discussion, we're being filmed, so we basically need to speak into the microphones, and I have a tendency to speak from the mic, so I may stray over, grab the wireless mic and talk, but if you have questions at the end, please use the microphone so that your questions can be captured when these DVD products go out, so for other people who've missed the sessions here. So we're covering a lot of general info on a lot of topics, right? And we could spend 60 minutes just on one topic. There's a lot of things that we want to present, but we don't have the time to go into detail on several of these things. So that's why we'll have this question and answer session. And also, feel free to track any one of us down because either here at the conference or on State Street, because GIS folks have been known to love beer and food. And since I used to live in Wisconsin, I like cheese curds too, so. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. If you don't get your GIS fix here today, look at all the other sessions you can go to. I'm going to plug one because I know the speakers for the land protection in the 21st century. Heather Abbey did a detail out in the Fort Collins office. She's working with Grant Harris, who I know through the I&M program, and I have a feeling that will be a good presentation. Of course, poster sessions are always filled with GIS stuff because, of course, GIS is making pretty maps. Right, Dave?
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about just the facts. As I mentioned, Ron Salz is the first ever National Wildlife Refuge System GIS coordinator. We actually have a dedicated person in place to move GIS forward. Ron, he's worked for BLM. He's been with the service working for ecological services. He spent time building a geodatabase for the Marine Base in Hawaii, a private contractor for DOD. I've worked with Ron for many years building and designing and delivering courses, geospatial courses through NCTC. He's an excellent person to lead the Refuge System in the future with applying geospatial technology and moving it forward. How many people in here don't know who their regional GIS coordinator is? We do have coordinators for GIS in every region, so that's good that nobody raised their hand. It's important that you contact to be aware of what's going on geospatially. That's your first line of defense in the region. And how many people here have actually taken geospatial training at NCTC? Raise your hands. Well, you other guys need to get out there. So basically, the future is going to be bright for GIS because as we hire new talent, new biologists into the service, they're all coming out of school, technical, very tech savvy. They grew up with cell phones and iPods, and they don't know that I used to be the remote control for my dad. Turn the channel 9, I had to get up and change the channel. So if the kids coming in today use GIS in college, and it's really going to make an improvement in applying GIS in the Fish and Wildlife Service as we transition with a new workforce. And we actually have a national GIS coordinator. Her name is Chris Lett, and there's a National GIS Steering Committee. And Chris has been leading the GIS Steering Committee for, I believe, about 2 or 3 years. She's been with the service, and she replaced Deb Green, who was previously in that position, and she's has moved things along quite a bit. In fact, that we've implemented a service-wide geospatial plan that was put in place last year, and we're working on that. And just to take a look a little bit here at some of the goals of that plan. What's important to take home here, you can see there's all these different goals that we're working towards as a national steering committee, of which I'm a member of that steering committee. committee for the Office of the Science Advisor, Gabrielle Chevarria. So I've been active on that committee for a while, but what's important here is that we have a service geospatial plan, and now as we're forming a new team that's focused specifically on geospatial for refuges. We can take this information that's been well thought out and already put down on paper, and we can take our refuge and step it down from this plan and align it with that and work together with the National GIS Steering Committee. So what has prompted all this movement towards now refuges getting a GIS coordinator and getting a committee, and what are some of the things that are shaking up things here a bit? Now, obviously, right here now, the reason why we're in Madison is we're creating another vision document from the Promises team. So there's several recommendations in there that couldn't be implemented without the use of geospatial technology. It's just going to be more commonplace, and it has to be utilized, and we have to get our field stations and our regional offices and national offices to work together and be consistent within a framework that we can be a lot more efficient in managing our data. And I'll talk a little bit more about that with when I talk about the inventory and monitoring. I just want to mention that these vision conferences are very important because the reason why there are I&M data managers now, when I'm going to talk I&M, but I want to kind of how the conference every region so that document was the implementation team, and now things that are very important because that becomes a guide. We're making things happen from the last document. We'll make things happen from this document. The I, which I was on the core team, the I a couple of years ago to play, and in that document is promise document relates to a gap. Every rest the biotic layers to them. It was never moved all these years initiatives I&M and the I&M. Right now, to make that happen. So come out of and there are to move forward in the future. A bit more the is what we're calling the Geo Advisory. That's another recent form to help move forward in refuge. Have tool set and data that's been out for several years. The Geospatial Advisory basically field stations GIS efficiently. That's one of the things. You know that people out in the field have a lot of work to do, and we use more and standardize things and help facilitate the use of GIS in the field station. Not so they can do pretty maps. So actually do analysis. I joined the organization years ago to strive to find the best to get the best bang for the buck. Do anything without working together as a system. As a GIS developer, as a instructor, 96 technology, help them they don't need to make up their own standards. We need standardized ways to gather, organize information, develop, and create and applied across the system. Much more. Right now, probably two technologists out there doing exactly and looking for information. Well, we need that. We need more efficient and provide one stop to come to information and do their job more efficiently. So this team put together has realized the chart. Recently, we haven't faced these objectives of and like I said, there's a multiple down in the plan, ones that I you know, I don't talk about as you read, I'm not going to go through them, but it's the improvement the field things that we have to the field because common now we want everybody to use it everywhere. It uses maps to plan their next trip, and we have tools specific to the refuge system to help them get out quickly their job efficiently. And we have to think of new ways to provide this training to use the technologies. The steering, the national steering committee works closely with NCT. They're focused more distance learning. We with tightening budget, people can't take courses on the rest of the West Coast. Start new things, YouTube and things like that. The advisory is all the objectives that we're working on, and we just basically recently met out in Fort Collins at a 3-day session. That to be done, and we find that to do that team is people that traveling really into GS time, and that actually that have come the system from programs of ecological system on the so take a look at the primary and region all the 9 programs represented in this. This is GAC, Spatial Advisory Committee, that was reformed. And we really meeting in 4 rounds, and let's take a look at the outcome from that. So if we look at this, one thing that we came out of that is the view of about the SGS data model. Chuck will talk about in a little bit. Essentially, in order to make efficient everybody and available at from levels from local to the regional, standards are critical, and it's agreed that after evaluating the GIS model, there was effort to that thing, and the committee agreed as we understand that is the we need to look at that springboard these national standards. There's a lot that went in the data model of the RLGIS. At that, we identified 7 that need enterprise data. We have one our cadastral layer, our boundaries, and that was a concept that was not done by centralized. It was individual around. A lot of people over the years have been from the graph. Now we're going to shift down for more of a central centralized well, there's too much to be done. Graph effort for the was essentially photographers, specialists in each region to develop a data standard and together with the guidance of the National GIS Cartographer Bandograph. Recently to go. Anybody know what the Ballroom stands for? The MMS, the new MMS. But Sean, who hailed so he recently moved in the process of moving. So we have a cartographer who will continue to carry the that but so we've identified 17 data that each of us on for standards to be consistently across the board and in a first manner with quality control documented. These are criteria that were utilized by local, national, and regional. As a result of that, of course, we as folks who would start on moving forward with the statement of these standards on these data. Some sort of hydrological data, and trails, so that some of the identified as being critical to be an enterprise that or not all more enterprise on that. Some of them may be local. There still needs to be a standard of collecting information to be shared. So this was a little bit of the overview coming from the national geo coordinator, Ron Salz, to be here. I kind of put on his presentation. Segue to the presentation of inventory management. Well, there's a lot of work to be done for how things need to be solutioned by technology. In order for success in all this creating, producing, and documenting and making sure it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not the person who's talking to the manager, it's actually responsibility from the regional chief down to the sector operator. We're operating with the parks who've been in the market several. They have one role. Out collecting data, spend one in the office managing data. Operators on GPS, their patches that they record that, and they need to spend time taking care of that information that it can document, not lost. Inventory monitor, we formed a new office at the Natural Resource Program Fort Collins. We're above the inventory and monitoring team from the Park Service. We collaborate closely with the Park Service and in the city for a while. To be able to walk down and talk to them, have been, and they do the same process as collection. But we're dedicated to carry out the process. There's a lot of what the Park Service has done, what a approach. They have 32 now. There's a data manager sees data for an average of 10 to 12 parts. One data for entire region at this point, but IAM has identified and put forth a proposal for structure for data management at every DC level, which really nice that we can have and data management for 10, 15 stations. I know I did when I started by serving 12, 15 management units in Wisconsin, and you're at your just taking care of 15. But it's unrealistic we're going to get a geospatial data management refuge. It's not possible, but the zonal approach to putting people at the field that can drive out the field station, and that's good, and that's what I was proposing with getting people on the ground, and we started the some regions actually put 2 data managers out already. I hear this all the time at the field, and all know another database. We got to fill out that. We have to ensure that we have the people in place to do the proper thing. Make sure that the database that we has been clearly defined as what information product is going to come to this database. Need to plan about those. To be successful, there needs to be a lot of time spent on how did you develop the database in the first place? What do you want in the database? What's going to come out of what stuff is going to be generated? We need to take raw data into information inside it and with other sets that are out there. More time to do requirement analysis before we develop databases. When a man goes into a website, go out in an efficient manner to actually useful information. So we have to stop having all these databases that all got to fill, and then I got to fill out this one. What we need to do is truly integrate our system. This is probably more annoying than having to call from up above and find that we entered that other database. Why are they calling me? Why don't they call from that database? Because a lot of is out developed not the system that may be used by 4 regions, not our system. They plan and develop a database with purpose and dedicate to it. What you're going to have is a product that will be useful and that has flexibility because we know it's different. It's the period you've got more details at the bottom and off at the top. We need to allow the flexibility like products like GIS have. They've had consistent standards, but they allow for flexibility to be modified at the local level. The goal that I have to develop an refuge system, which I like to call IBIS. And what we want is to get the biologist, the manager, into a system that I want is a stop shop. And make to know the basic one that sits on they just and complete a task in as easy as possible. And this is accomplished web services. You just need to plan what you want, and it's not a technology solution, because the technology is there. I'm very happy to be in Fort. I'm excited about this opportunity because I can collaborate with those that have done this stuff before. The public is going through a key transition. You may have heard about that. I wait till it makes sense. Why should we have a bunch of in every, can't we have else? A lot of efficiencies that can be in IT. There can be efficiencies with us partnering with National Service. We've already done it. In fact, one of the applications that I've been on is the priority in my office application that already has in place that fits our and now this is that will allow you to pull your spatial summarize and put it into a system that can then that can be covered by search mechanisms or spatial query. Find out what regarding is in the box through. So it's geospatial archive. And developing this with the partners for that means we're basically having our system over here, we're running, and they have their system over here, but what we develop an enhancement to apply that to both. So the Park Service wants to improve a functional component of their benefit, we receive it and have to pay for it, and vice versa. The collaboration that I'm proud of is that we're working now with ethos. The logical services have been in development. They've been a application with several modules out at Fort Collins. Conservation may be familiar with habits and and tail, different products like collaborations. So collaborating with the logical service host some development work as well. That's going to be a thing. So our job at the folks to host, manage, maintain, and we want to focus on data that's rigorous, that has peer review calls it a cost system in the same way that it's managed and it's preserved. So this, we're working on geographically replicated service. Not valuable data, spend all this time out collecting. It's going to be preserved and put in a system that can be maintained forever. It's not us. Right now, you're sitting in your cap, the potential to be in digital format. So there are things that we're working on in the early stage of I&M that regional I&Mers and got together to identify priorities to move forward. So basically, it's going to be useful for when you leave your job as a biologist and take 6 to 9 the government and hire that person, and that person that comes in doesn't have to look at see around and go, oh, where are these files at? What does this person do? Oh, start up. No, you can go to the website, the query information that you collected, all the reports, the history of your station. How's that data going to get? It's not going to get in logically, but get in the people work and job aid to do it efficiently. So that's all I can say about that. I'm going to go over to who more about this, right, Chad? I only have a slide that I'm going to talk a bit about today. It has to do with a little recommendation called RLGIS, Refuge Land GIS. Something that's out there, been developed, and is available. It's Todd mentioned being used as a spring as a guide forward, and better define some of the key spatial data that we think is important, and I think that based on a lot of input and requirements to various data projects that the folks present the GAC have done, and to better enable us to generate databases that allow us to look at refuge
as a system. So, a couple of things that make this called our well, the history. Todd is the granddaddy of the approach we're using to developing this system. He worked in the prairie back in the late 90s, and then the project leader at the time, Steve Callan, who's around. He's in here. Steve's in here. At the request of Steve, helped us in the wetland management district to data that they felt was important from a refuge management perspective, generate apps and report summaries like that. And so it very much is targeted to the National Wildlife Refuge System with a great input from the field. Well, first of all, the most important is the standardized data set. Build a system with some standards, and it's tough to do that. And 6 what developed, and we just called it different. We built a system that worked in the prairie for us and one, and ultimately spent some time after that to expand beyond. The model is 3 models. One that focuses on habitat, vegetation, wetlands. Another data model that is called the unit. It's kind of a hodgepodge of things, but a lot of focus on property, spatial representation of property, attributes, documents, what things were called, and codes, and all those sorts of things. And utilize that to build the refuge, the database, like for lots of different things like that. And the first is one that's very important to the management folks, to the biology, and that's the management activity component of the data model. And initially, very prairie management type issue back in 2002, 2003, got together and wanted to expand it to be more useful in other regions, and we did that, and put in a lot of knowledge, a lot of subject matter experts, and expanded the modeling with representatives at varying degrees of input to a model that was something that could be used system-wide. And certainly it's some shortcomings, and what we've indicated over and over, and we felt it's a really good starting, and the GAC agrees with that. A rep on that as well, and that's what we've chosen it to be, that springboard to visit as much detail probably as we did in the original analysis, but to that, guys look at it and make it the best that we can, and with a focus on what's important for you to do their job, expect with whatever we decide from a perspective can be narrowed down to a regional or national perspective. If we decide it's important, we know more about it. We want to know more about what we're doing. Just to be able to start this information out in a standardized fashion, it can be just moved up the chain, and folks for this type of summaries, gathering information about what we're doing, and hopefully, the data calls and all sorts of things. We did also custom tools that allow for interaction with the data model, and also a little bit of report data harvesting out of the information. Critical element of all this is the data is only get out is only what you put in. So tools are only good if you have data in the system. But is there many people probably take some training. We do offer training. Back for a second, I hit on this topic already, but centralization again, you can't build tools and centralize unless you come up with common And this data model is not going to capture everything. It's going to capture things that come across the Refuge system in some fashion. When we get into these aren't competing models, these are complementary models. Hopefully that inventory monitoring side is going to start to help us do a better job of assimilating biological information that we collect on field stations, so we can put it in the context with the LGIS context of the management that we do on the system and help us understand why what we're doing is making a difference, how they relate to climate change, a whole host of things. And finally, training, I'll just quit with that. Those are only as good as your ability to teach how to use the data model animals. And so a lot of time, Todd's been a trainer for a lot of years. I delivered some NC training. We went to a lot of work to develop training materials to help educate on how to use the model, what's in it, what's the potential. We need to go another step. We taught people how to put data in, but we haven't taught people how to take it out and actually use it once you collect it information, how to back out, how to use it in analysis and those sorts of things that I might want to do. So that's it in a nutshell. With that opportunity, again, using it as a springboard for the GAC to hopefully fulfill refuge needs, ideally, as far as standard kind of data that we should be collecting refuges. So I'll turn it to Dave.
So I don't think it can be overstated the importance of some of the things that you've already heard. We've got National Refuge System GIS Coordinator, that's huge. And we've got the INET program, that's huge. Our National GIS Coordinator, Chris Lake, has done a fantastic job. So I don't think it can be overstated the things that are happening in service right now when it comes to GIS. So I think everybody ought to feel pretty excited about it. Hear more in the future. Mentioned sharing information, and a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but here are places where you can get data. It's not necessarily Fish and Wildlife Service or anything. I know the IMAP and website there is amazing that it allows citizen scientists to go and log in and record their finding data, how they got data and when, and that information be uploaded and downloaded really easily. The iLeaf, I don't know if you've heard about that one yet, but if you find a and you don't know what it is, you can take a picture of it with your iPhone, and it'll search the database, and it'll come back with most likely hits what the plant is. So I think the data information dissemination aid that we're coming into is going to fundamentally change the way we do a lot of our work, which is pretty exciting. Same thing with that Oregon Restoration Database. Madison is a project Conservation Biology Institute to store data. Nature Map, Nature. So the message is just that we don't want to be a temple, hold on to information. We want to figure out the best data in a process to collect, store, manage, maintain, and distribute information for everybody to get access to. So I think there are neat things coming up. Todd, Windows Map Services. There's currently a wildlife service land status service that's out there that you could bring into any ArcGIS project, and so there's no reason to call somebody up and say, hey, can you send me that data layer? Because it's out there for you to use. Just a quick side note, I had somebody from Federal Highway called me last week, and they said, we're doing all the planning out on your refuges. Can you send us all of your refuge data? So, how much data is there? It's like terabytes. But how many times have we all gotten this phone call? Somebody says, send your data. Yeah. We've got to do a better way of getting this information, and I think stuff like those map services are a fantastic way of doing it. There's still bandwidth issues and access issues, but we got to keep coming up with things like that, because that's really going to help us move forward. So, a little GIS solution
slide here, some things that are INM, they're not coordination, they're not RLGIS. I think one thing that I want to try and talk to people about after this is the idea of the database of the club. I think we all can do that a little bit too, where want to check in an area. How do people make the decision when to either own the model or process, or just about somebody else's? So I'm curious to have that discussion a little bit. I don't know how many people know about the Refuge annual performance planning process. It's rather wide. There's two people I know for sure that love that stuff. But it's our way of being able to track things that happen on refuges and report back to the Office of Management and Budget for if we're achieving our goals and objectives. And we're looking at more from the outputs to outputs. Hopefully through that process, we're going to be able to design our GIS systems. So how many populations got restored versus how many acres did we work? I think there's going to be a blend of that coming up. But there's year some needs there. CCP, we're sitting on a lot of data for alternatives that what about 5 years from now when somebody says, so are you meeting your objectives with all the CCPs you did? Well, I know in our region, Region 1, every refuge has a different CCP data model, and so we couldn't really cross the question, you know, you guys picked all your alternatives, now, what do you accomplish? So that's something that I'd like to see come in the future too, and share with our people as a CCP data model. And this is an egg, it's an example asset. So we're a lot of our legacy data sets were tables and linking for example, the app. I think the service has something like 45 or 50,000 assets, and the people where they are, maybe about half of those. And a lot of them are based on where the headquarters office is, and so we don't really know where all those assets are. But as we're trying to geolocate all those assets, we're trying to link in all the data tables with that, so that eventually one day a refuge manager can go to a web page, zoom to their refuge, and click on an asset and get all the information about replacement value, when it was looked at, and who did the analysis. So again, we don't want to preach to the, we want to, you know, get all out to people the best way possible. Toolkits and tool sets. This is old school for me because AMS grid, people remember AMS, a few people do. So that's like 25 years old. And when somebody asks you to create a model to look at the place to you built a B script, a Python script in AML language, and you did and ran that in your output data and map, it's fantastic. Because 25 years ago, that was the best way to do it. Now this whole concept of tool sets and toolkits is really gaining a lot of traction because we can take the information in GIS map and publish it and share it and disseminate it in ways that we've never been able to do before. So, you know, the strategic habitat we are between the biological planning and conservation design and delivery and monitoring all the way back around again, there's a component for the GIS community in that ring that would lend itself to create a toolkit for it that would address not just the modeling part of it, but the whole process. And so I'm kind of excited to be moving in that direction as well. This morning, Rick Coleman and Gabby talked about critical thinking. I think that's our challenge here because we got to get away from making a map. We got to get away from answering these straight up simple questions and challenge ourselves and do some critical thinking about how to solve problems, how to buy the right land, how to protect the right land for the right species. And so I think that's the challenge for everybody to consider. So if you take some points, that this is where I think for fish and wildlife and for information management, GIS as a whole, that we are coming up with better ways of managing information. We want to move away from this individual one system, refuge information, to a truly coordinated system of information for the Fish and Wildlife Service. We've got to protect our data investment better. I wouldn't want somebody to come down and ask where all of our data was. We spent all this money for all these years because I don't think we could produce it. So I think it is incumbent on us to make sure we make that investment better. And I think probably the most important thing is that we're going to move from those pockets of excellence to a coordinated system of excellence. We've taken some huge leaps forward, and I think that the board position that we're take some steps in action. Challenges here. The draft vision, everybody has, right? Okay. So in that draft vision, how many people in geospatial or spatial don't exist. Both of those words don't exist in the document. Cartography doesn't exist. GIS doesn't exist. Map doesn't exist. So in other words, search on data, information, and analysis, and those words are in there, but not in the context of what we're talking about here, which is geospatial planning, refuge, geospatial management. So as people think about their comments that they want to put on this is the time to make sure that these concepts get into the vision document. And it's okay to use the word spatial and geospatial in that document. We just have to make sure that it's important for us to manage the system in the next 10 years using that technology. And the place to go to get information for the refuge system is just fws.gis. And folks bookmark that, go there, and I think we're going to be ready to talk about where people think we ought to go and how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I can come around with the mic if anyone wants questions. I'll pick the wireless mic.
I want to add one thing to, that I was going to mention in the minutes that I was up there that fits in with what Todd talked about with the Geospatial Advisory Committee. I agree with Dave. We're pretty well positioned to move the utility of these tools. And I always keep it in the context of these are tools that support decision making in the field. That's the only reason we use geospatial data. Everything we do out there is spatial. This power tools that we have now in the computers and the GPS and all that, it's something we can use to do our jobs better. When the Geospatial Advisory Committee is not going to be one of those groups that just writes a series of action documents and things and sticks them on a shelf and sends them out and says, GIS at the field station, here's what you should think about when you do it. That's not what it's about. It's not about making plans. It's about actually doing some things, working with folks in the field, providing with your input the tools that you need to help make the decisions that you want to make, to answer the questions. That's what we're going to be trying to work towards. We won't do those things effectively if we know what the field wants. And so you have to communicate with us through your representative so that we can move that direction. The GIS Refuges coordinator needs to know those things so they can work to try and whatever it means, sources, developing tools. That's going to be the way to get it done. So we get those things back into your hands.
Check. Even if questions, I can. If I have one, I can come around, so you have to stand up and walk up to the mic. I can bring this to you. We're an informal bunch of guys here, right?
Questions, comments, just don't throw fruit. Tomatoes.
So how many people are here? And partners?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. Yeah, we have service people here. That's great. But, y'all, what's the best we could partner? yeah, just kind of looking for some feedback on the best way to interact with partners rather than just waiting for people to call us. Yeah.
Hope you hear me. Yes. Okay. You know, there's a lot of these things, point to the database and matrix and all that other stuff that's out there. How well are you guys integrating this effort with the RLGIS and data standards coming out of the CAC? Those data sets, so you can take those web mapping services. You know, you don't want to pull that data in all the time. You know, we just get that information. There's a lot of this stuff, and the refuge system is being challenged to think beyond the boundaries of the refuge. And think about how do I interact with the, you know, state wildlife management area.
There's a couple of things that is like these databases are out there for landscape context, which is great. We also have, so we have two needs. We have different resolutions. We have a need for high resolution information to do the day-to-day management on the refuges and understand how what we're doing is implementing the resources with the area that we're directing. We also need to understand it in the context of the surrounding landscape, and I think that's where these other databases where we don't have necessarily, not really the code is a little bit different. Our footprint is from around the country. For most refuges, it's not. So, it's not. So typically, that data is low resolution, and that's where you can match into what other landscape-type data is available as opposed to the server building high-resolution data outside of it when it's necessary.
Well, I think it's a good place for these two things to come together. Are you guys going to make that data model available, though, to state agencies? I mean, I know the Fish and Wildlife Service like kind of proprietary stuff. It'd be great to share that with us.
Oh, no, certainly. We've been approached by more than one state to look at for the RLGIS for what we've invested into that. For consideration, Conservancy is for consideration use on their own lands. Nebraska uses their version of it on state-owned lands. It's not a proprietary thing. It's there. If they're interested, look at it. Don't really on a website download, but we will to at least start a data model with anyone if they would like to look at it. Yep.
Is that something that's going to end up on the national website then? Is that how they access information other than just personal contact?
Right now, there is always potential to put it out there for more ease of access. Right now, it's on our intranet site, but I don't know that there's any reason it can't be. The only reason we put it where it is because we don't have the infrastructure to maintain it, and so it was easy to do it the way we did it. But certainly that would be open, so that it wouldn't have to be perfect.
Combo Point Civil County Refuge, and which is on the boundary refuge. And first they by default a geospatialist, and I'm pleased with the information that you're sharing with us because in trying to share data, I get the question daily: can you send me a shape file that can make me a map? And so I've been looking for some sort of framework to be able to distribute this information much more easily. That being said, Region 5 does not use RLGIS, they use a program called RMAT. And so I'm curious if you are considering regions, I don't know, if a region that doesn't use RLGIS, have discussions within the region. So I want to use these tools and you know, data that our region can use. But I guess just asking if you consider that some regions might be using RLGIS.
Yeah, I've been around since, so I know beginning of time it seems like. So So I know trials and tribulations that have gone along with different regions. The challenge that we have is not, I don't think it's necessarily the tools, but I think we had an agreement at the advisory meeting to use the current model, irrespective of the tools that we've developed, as a springboard. In a lot of cases, personally, I don't believe that the actual databases for a lot of cases, the layers were from. And so the idea that it's a fairly well concept of a model is going to be a hard point that, and our goal is to make that available, useful, and usable by everybody. And I know Region 5, the approach was, well, you use it if you want, but we don't have the people to support it. And that's the biggest challenge. It's easy to go to people. 3 days, show up, whoever the instructors are. The challenge is helping folks when they go to the field station, get it up and going. It's with anything. If you go back, start using something, use it regularly, it becomes a mistake, a hard time. And so you need a lot of region a lot of foundation support for people that want to get in and use it, and there's sporadic other places. It's not like anything else we do in Region 5 that have very minimal use. The goal is to have something that will be useful by everybody.
Tom, I can address that a little bit because I'm familiar with RMAD and RLJS for RMAD. And one of the GAC has recently formed a new one. A lot of that team are familiar with RMADs, and I envision that a hybrid-type product down the road. Because RMAD is not a duplicate of effort. It's one component of RLJS, it's the management action component, and it's just an online centralized system that has a spatial component. So I envision the layers that we're working on through the CAC are going to be standardized and that being more centralized nature with RLJS being used to as the base and move forward. So what I see is a hybrid of an RMAD and an RLJS. The key is the standard.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's kind of lining up right now and for worse is we have a couple things we need to do. One, we need to make, I hate to, don't force it on anybody, but we have opportunities to hire people with skill sets, GPS and things. We need to take advantage of that because social data is just part of our life. And the other thing is, I've been around for years or so, and for some reason I have this aptitude for using the software stuff, even though I really want to be a wild biologist. And so now is my peers, my age group, are the ones that are getting the management level positions, and they have expectations that the technology is going to be in some form or fashion at their fingertips, and they're going to be able to ask questions that spatial data will help answer. In the past, we've always talked about educating the managers how to ask a question so we can help answer it, and I think we're getting past that because a lot of those folks that didn't really understand how to use it but understood its value, they're moving on in their careers, they're retiring, and they're being replaced by folks that are a little more technical savvy. And the young, my kids make me look silly on my phone and stuff because they can navigate around and treat me like I'm a dinosaur. The service force is evolving with people in place that think actually know how to ask questions and recognize the value in it. And so now they just have to support us with the dollars to do it so that we can actually make it a major part of how we do our daily activity. Once a person gets in, they can't imagine how they ever did their job without tools. And so we just have to have more of those folks. And that's part of what GAC is about, exposing more folks, getting skills so broadly distributed you that you don't think anyway. And I think that's the direction we're headed. I had a guy tell me that he can't imagine everybody using GIS. It's going to happen. And my response was, I'm not having everybody that's had some knowledge or using GPS. They have GPS dashboard on their phones. They know what technology is.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, with the DAC, we have, it's just a committee that doesn't have any time devoted to developing tools, and it's a part-time task or job for these folks. For the I&M effort, we have 3 GIS analysts out in our office now. If we continue to show successes, then things happen. We can start building centers of excellence that Dave talked about. And, it all happens, center of excellence, and like you said, there's several examples of that all around, and we need to improve on that.
I'm curious, the folks in here are past GIS here, field station. A handful of you. And the others are file managers.
Other duties that
usually the biologists or in some cases foresters.
Oh, we have a question. Can you pass that? Thanks.
a little bit of this presentation, but did you say that there's going to be a push to accept RLGIS as kind of the national standard or a version of RLGIS? Because right now, we're talking about these new opportunities we have with the national here for both service and the refuge system, and then we have data models. There's obviously none of them out there. And all that I've run into with RLGIS is I'll use the data model, not necessarily the tool, because I have a hard time keeping up with the service packs and stuff like that. But then, when it comes to trying to do a roll-up or something for this data, it doesn't go anywhere. It's still sitting in different pockets in different places. Even though it's nested in the structure of RLGIS, it's just waiting to build up into a regional or a national data set. And, it's not there. I don't think there's, the regions aren't even doing it, so I'm just curious about that.
Product, you want to take it? Take it and address it. So the specific question is it going to be the standard for RLGIS is the standard for everybody? Now, identified through the Geospatial Advisory Committee, it's the starting point. We've identified 17 layers that we work on in a standard fashion that everybody uses and creates. And we're not suggesting that you use RLGIS set to create those. We're suggesting you can start at what the standard should be, and we already have a guide and some data model to be the starting point. Say, all right, now we've identified 2 layers. And we're working on one this year. So we'll start working on one. Which one is it going to be? And let's look at the existing attributes in RLGIS, and then we work as a system to find needs, what the needs are. That as we move into phase 2, I would say, that's
I agree. I would say if a person is using RLGIS, be well positioned to move into whatever direction, but it's being adopted as a starting point, and it will evolve in some form just like it has in 1997.
if that layer that we've identified is important and crucial for the whole system, that's going to be required. You'll need to use those standards to collect. Not the other data layers in RLS, but if you're using that, it's a good chance the structure is going to be very similar to the second and the third layer. And those will be the ones that we will build an enterprise data set. Everybody who has data layer on their refuge that they not be excited to go out and do it at home, because this is where the I&M is going to be crucial. We've already got people in the field to facilitate data collection.
our infrastructure roll up, because we really want to be able to accomplish. Because we think it's a valuable tool for a couple things, for the landscape that looks addressing climate change, in addition to budget-related things, questions that the regional office has, Washington has. There'll be linkages to other databases. You know, if we build some spatial asset databases, talk to SAM, talk to the fire layers, and things that exist, we want to duplicate in effort. We want to be able to talk to the data that are out there, you know, the mining and database that they're developing.
Very frustrating for us. All on the committee, we at FCC, the National GIS Steering Committee, for the workshop. All the GIS get together there once every couple of years, and if you haven't gone to it, GIS, you should go. But we found out at one of the meetings that there were 3 separate groups within the service that were creating culvert information, collecting culverts, and no one was within our own organization. And so communication is going to be key to moving forward on this. And having this geospatial advisory committee will be every region and every program in Refuges together to move forward together. So.
States collecting information. How do we figure out how to, again, get away from thinking about a refuge data set? And I don't know what 17 data layers they are. You mentioned maybe hydrography before. Well, we have that data set already. I mean, are there standards going to make sure that they're aligned with the standards of those existing data sets, so we don't have to duplicate that?
For things like hydrography, there's already national seamless data standards, but we have additional needs at the refuge level that are going beyond what is seamless.
I don't know what the 17 data layers are.
Right. You know, I think it's LCC drive those data layers, because LCCs will say culverts are important for some sort of analysis. That's partnership to find the standards at that level. I mean, we're just a partner in the LCCs. Just
I agree, and I would advocate for sure. I want to make sure that the gap doesn't get too far out there. You can imagine that there's a frustration of other projects that say, we develop the culvert data set, they're going to go and develop it, and they're showing that they're not going to listen kind of how I've already told it.
Correct. Well,
the only concern.
Yeah. The beauty of that right now is in 144 formats, and you need to stop that to focus inward. But if anything's documented and has structure and standard, as a data person can work with that data. If it's documented in a different format, so we don't have that at all right now.
Yeah, there's a, right now, if you have a service to provide data to fit into a statewide culvert data, it's using well, you have 200 variations on the information collected. At least you get asked from a system standpoint. When we get your culverts, we can send one database that's all the same. And you crosswalk a couple databases instead of 5 of them. And so, you know, it gets difficult, obviously it gets difficult to do that among agencies, especially when we can do it within our own agency right now.
And I was the lead for the culverts, of which I'm not, vegetation and permanent monitoring markers, but I would not just look at LGS if I was developing a standard. I'd be a fool not to go look at, well, somebody already have a culvert standard, but that is simply going to take our LGS for its word, because their data is vegetation. That standard is different. So we have to look at what exists out there before. We have to do homework before we start developing a standard for the service. It would be to reinvent the wheel, right, Chuck?
Certainly.
Okay. I'll be brief. I'm sure other people have, but I have 2 comments. One is that in the Northeast, the Park Service does not have a very large presence. The Park Service has a much larger presence. So often we rely on their resources regarding inventory monitoring. And so please consider that it works out better as a partner Park Service that there are places that we have to rely more on our own agency for services that may not be available in different parts of the country. The other comment is, I'm on the core team. I assure you that GIS and geospatial and using temporal and spatial data was included in the draft at one time, and over different iterations has been taken out because it was decided that it was becoming specific and we had to consolidate this draft. But it was recognized that it's a component, especially of inventory monitoring, but of consequence. And now is the time, the next 2 days, to the implementation breakout session and participate in identifying strategies and you don't go and not be sure that it becomes part of it.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And we had a lot of spatial and all that, and a lot of technical, and part of implementation in addition. And I can say that so yeah, point well taken.
Now there's still, the document brought up and next.
This is still some
idea. Run over to the next.
There was a question, too, was you have?
Yeah, my name is Weldon with the regional office. I have a question, but I'll have a question after here. So there's, there's some recommendations, and yeah, the GIS or in the document, where those are so important. Recommendations. I mean, is there some way to get, people aware of this, all the tools and information technology? I think transcends a lot of these different things.
I'm not sure what the answer is. You can do a word placement, where you find information, put in Geospatial or something like that. But I guess, read the document, might fit, and put your comment in based on that.
But since it's related, as it's developed teams, I'm assuming implementation teams, just like it was the last vision, and those implementation teams, I mean, if you're working on recommendation, growth of National Wildlife System, going to be geospatial activities involved in that. I think, I'm not too concerned about it, but
I'm an old dog. I've been on a long time.
got a question back or over here? Mike.
Up, for instance, we have application mapping, and I would whether you will simply
Need for map point forward.
And if you're going to do to NBC, and that is the vegetation standard service.
But in blueprint, and address consistently across the board, like consistent vegetation mapping, but unfortunately, you know, Park Service has been still not complete. It takes a lot of resources, and as you know, mapping 1,000 acres is different than 2 acres and all that, so there's still need to be what they have to flexibility dealing with. So it's going to be down the road. Chuck,
will be
sure. We already got we can look at that. I'm sure you got just on the
team.
I would say that resource in the GAC has.
Yeah. Identify. Just make standards on input and review data model. Especially the coming data, that is a priorities at field. I don't know if not everyone to focus on management. We can get one layer across the country that's populated for stations. I don't think that's going to be the approach that we take. We're going to identify the layers and it'll be already decision by the field station as to which one will work. Ideally, at some have all being fully populated, and I think we lose because the gaps between
work in the office. Working with to the to presentation, but also be there.
question for you. One if you make up our dated updated won't be any less. It does not. Nobody wants. As a force, our region, now protect our story. They both handle. Now, when you go information. Pointing out, giving and putting in a database. Everybody going to databases. That's why through the that specific. If I was job would help out a group of national what how many could watch these team that we don't have taken up the project. Within the have a sub that say watching so we can allow a broad scope of view to put the
right? All, you know, do it because work back